Hello everyone and welcome back to another video tutorial of Python. So today what we're going to be creating is just a basic word game, and I figured since this game isn't as straightforward as some of the other ones we've done on this channel up until this point, I would start with how the game actually works in the final product that we're going to be created. So as we can see here, the program is going to give us a random list of letters, and we're trying to see how many words we can create with this. So I see a D, O, and G. That's a word. It gives us 3 points because we found a word with 3 letters. I see jog. I see hop. And so on and so on. And if I guess a word that's not actually a word, then it will lose the game. Or if I include a letter that's not in this list, for example, F, the game will end and print my final score. So that's what we're going to be creating today. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is we want to create 2 lists, and these lists are going to be vowels. And this first one we have A, E, I, O, and U, obviously just the normal vowels. And then in letters, we can also call this consonants, but that's okay. I'm going to copy and paste this. You can look at this. This is just all the other letters that aren't the vowels that I have here. However, if you do see, I did take out some letters such as X, Z, V, letters like that, because those aren't in a lot of words. So I figured it might just be simpler if the computer chose from letters that have more words that have those letters in them. So obviously you don't have to do that, but that is just the way I've chosen to do that. Alright, so the next step, what we're going to do is, first of all, let's import random. And then we're going to create a function called create list. And before we do that, we're going to create one last list, my bad, and it's going to be called letter list. And this is what's going to be used as the letters that are used in the game. And for our first function, we're going to call it definition create list. What this is going to do is it's going to randomly pick letters from these 2 lists, and it's going to put it into our letter list. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say for I in range of 5, we're going to say random index equals random, and it's going to be between 0 and the length of letters minus 1. So we've already talked about this in another video. Oh, sorry. Got to put the random dot rand int. Awesome. That should look better. So many errors. Okay. All right. So we're good. So what this random index does is it's creating a random number between 0 and the length of letters minus 1. Now I'll go over this one more time just because when you're a beginner, this can be somewhat confusing. When you take the length of a certain list, let's just say vowels, it will say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it will report the length 5. This is what this value is. But the index value in list always start with 0. So in reality, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So by 5 minus 1, the highest number that it could choose, in this case for vowels, although we're using letters, just vowels has less, so it's easier to explain, will be between 0 and 4. And you'll see why that's important in a second. So next we're going to do letter list dot append letters at random index. So now what this is doing is it's taking this letter list, which as you can see when you click on it, it also highlights this because this is the list that we're going to be using, and it's adding the letter from this random index. So let's just say it's between 0 and however long this is, and we get the number 5 as a random number. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go to index 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's H. And so what we're saying is we're going to add H to our letters list, and that would become our first index value. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say letters.remove letters at random index. So this letters.random index is the same both times. After we add it to our letter list, we're going to take it from letters, or else there's a possible chance that you could use the same letter twice, which isn't going to be necessary. We want to give them multiple different letters that aren't the same. And obviously that's not going to be that way in every case, but it could happen. So that's what we're going to do. That just makes it so a letter can only be selected once. And then we're going to do the same thing with vowels. So we're going to say for J in range. Well, let's go with 3 for now. We'll do 3 vowels. We're going to say random index equals random dot rand int between 0 and the length of vowels minus 1. Now, as you can see up here, this is very similar to what we did with letters. Honestly, the only difference between this line is just the fact that we're using vowels instead of letters. So hopefully that's pretty straightforward to this point. And now we're going to do letter list dot append vowels at random index. Again, this is the exact same thing that we're doing up here. And then we're going to do vowels dot remove vowels at random index. Awesome. And you may be wondering why we have 2 different lists, why we're not just putting the vowels in with letters and only doing this once, because it is less code. But while I was working through the game, I started to realize that you can only make words with vowels. So if you happen to get unlucky and all of the letters that are picked aren't vowels, you don't have at least one vowel, you can't create any words. So by doing this, we allow there to be a couple of vowels in the selection of letters that we have, and that allows us to actually be able to make words. Awesome. Okay, so now the second thing we're going to do is we need to create a function that checks the user's word and makes sure that the letters they use in their word are only letters that the computer has given them. And the letters that the computer has given them are going to be in this letter list. So I put def checklist, and we're going to take in a parameter user word, and I'll explain more what that means and what that looks like in a second. And we're going to say for letter in user word, if letter in letter list, we're going to say continue, and else we're going to return false. And then if we make it all the way through the loop without returning false, we're going to return true. So I went through that a little fast. Let's just go through what we're doing. So let's just say, for example, the word is cat. It will say for letter in user word. So the first letter will be C. And it says if letter is in letter list, we're going to continue. So if one of the letters that we added randomly up here happens to be C, we're just going to type the keyword continue, and that continues the loop. Else, we're going to return false, because if that letter is not in the list that we gave them, they automatically lose because they're not using letters that we gave them. So that way we're returning false. And this return true is outside the for loop, because if we continue through the entire loop and never return false, then we're just going to return true, because that means every letter in the word that they chose is a letter that the computer selected in letter list. Awesome, so that's pretty straightforward. And next, we are going to do definition check list for word. And we're going to take in that same parameter user word. Okay, so now this requires a text file that we're going to be opening on our computer and checking to make sure that the word they chose is actually a word. Because say the letter list has the letters A, B, C, D. If they type the letter D, that's not really a word, but right now it will still return true because that is a letter in the letter list. So what I've compiled, and you can download this text file in the link in the description, is a English words text file that has a bunch of common English words. So the first thing we got to do is open that. So we're going to do possible words is equal to open English words dot text R. And what this is saying is we're going to open the file in read mode. Obviously we could put W and that will allow us to write to the text file, but we just want to read it. We just want to check to make sure that the word they selected is actually a word. Awesome. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say for line in possible words. And what this is doing is it's taking every line from possible words, which is this file right here. And this file just has a bunch of different words, as you can see. So it's going to go through each line and it's going to check all of the words that we have. And there's a couple of things we need to do, but first let's do the simple part. And we're going to say if user word equals line, any line, we're going to return true. If at any point the user word that they chose is a word found in this dictionary of tons of different English words, we're going to return true. And then if we go through the entire loop and we don't find that word at all, we never return true, all we're going to do is return false. Now, it should be as simple as this, but there is a couple more things that we have to do, and we'll just go through this really fast because it's important, but it's not too important. So we have the line, and we need to replace a couple of things about the line, because the way the text file is formatted, it actually starts a new line, and that does that by the character /n. So even though you won't see that on this text file that we have, and again, that link is in the description. It's a Google Drive link so that you can download the text file for yourself and use it. That's still there, and it won't register it as the same word. So we're just going to replace that with a blank space. And then we're also going to do the same thing with blank spaces after the word. So we're going to take all of our spaces and we're going to replace them with blank spaces. And there we have it. The line, each line in possible words, which we have equal to this text file, will now be replaced so that it could be the same word as the user word that is guessed. So I hope that makes sense up until this point. All right, now the last thing we need to do is create a main function where we're just going to put how the program works, what order the functions are going to be called, and how we're going to evaluate what the user has done. So the first thing we obviously got to do is we got to create our list. And that is just the function up here, and it creates our letter list from the vowels and letters. And then the next thing we obviously got to do is we got to print the list. So I'm doing it in a slightly fancier way. It's not important. You could just print letter list. But what this does is it turns the list into a string, and then with the space in between, it's joining each index with a space. So there will be a space between each letter. And in my opinion, that just makes it easier and more readable and more user-friendly. It's not that too important, you can just put letter list if you would like, but that just makes it, in my opinion, a little bit more readable. And then we're also going to add a score function. So we're going to set score equals 0. And here is the part where the user is going to enter their guess. So we're going to write a while true function. So this is going to continue until we break out of the loop. And we're going to make a user word. And we're going to set it to input. And it's going to ask for a word guess. Although it's not really a word guess, obviously. If it's a word, you probably know it's a word. So we're just going to say enter valid word. And that's asking for input. So with their input, that's just going to be set to user word, which is conveniently the same name as these two functions' parameters that they take in. So we can just pass this user word as an argument. So then we can say word follows rules equals checklist user word. So we're getting the word, and then we're doing the word follows rules, and we're setting that equal to checklist. Now, if you look up here, the two possible values that word follows rules could equal is true or false. And the way it will return true is if all the letters, as we've already discussed, are in our letter list that we print out at the beginning of the game. And then, probably not the best naming on my part, but let's call it word follows rules 2 equals check list for word user word. And this is just doing the same thing. Obviously, it's not enough just to check to make sure all the letters are in the list that we printed. We also need to make sure that it's a word. So it's just checking that here. All right, and now we got to evaluate the response. So if word follows rules and word follows rules 2, and when we don't put equals to true or equals to false, it's just going to assume that it equals true. So what we're saying here, just in shortened form, is if the word follows rules equals true and word follows rules 2 equals true. So in other words, if it has all the letters that are in the list, or not necessarily all the letters, but it follows that list, and it's actually a word from the dictionary, then we're going to do whatever inside there. And obviously, if it meets those conditions, they're going to score points. So we're going to say score plus equals the length of user word. So say the word is cat, it follows all the rules. We're taking the length. Length of cat is CAT, 3. The score will add 3 points to their existing score of 0. And then we're also going to let the user know that they've got points. So we're going to say yes, score, and then we're just going to add score here. And then if this is not true, if it follows one but not the other, if it follows neither, we're going to go to this else statement and we're going to print nope. Your final score was string score. I actually forgot to add the string part here too. If you don't add this str in front of your integer variable, you'll get an error in the console saying that it can't print an integer and it wants a string. And then after that, so that the game does not continue, we're going to add a break statement, and that breaks us out of the final loop. Now, if you were to run the code right now, nothing would happen because we haven't called any functions. So just below that, we're going to call the main function. And that should do it for this video. Let's go ahead and give it a run. All right, I see the word go. I see the word he. I see the word, is Joe a word? Yes, it is. Very nice. Low, log. and I am officially stuck. So say I don't see any A's here, but say I enter in an A, C-A-T. Nope, because some of these letters were not in this list. So we automatically lose, and our final score was 13, which is not bad. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you would like to see a part 2 to this, I would love to do that for you guys. We would add a high score method where we could actually save the score, and we could also add a little more features that make the game a little bit more fun with those little details. So let me know down in the comments below if you'd like to see that. Otherwise, thanks for watching and have a great day.